Greetings, friends and brethren. This is Chang for the Continuing Church of God. And today I'd like to give an update on China, current challenges and future implications. As some of you last year were at the last Feast of Tabernacles, I gave a brief summation of what's going on in China. And it's been a year, so I want to give all of you an update on the situation and based on current events and challenges, and also what CCOG is currently doing over there. At first, just want to start with some current events. If you've been paying attention to the news in September of 2015, there was a military parade in Beijing commemorating the 70th anniversary of the end of World War II. And basically, this was a time to showcase China's latest advances in its military and also its technology. And also in May of 2015, we saw that at the end of World War II in Europe, China and Russia Russia hosted a parade in Moscow, and then China reciprocated in September. Basically, both countries are coming closer together. And then also last month, September 2015, President Xi Jinping of China visited the U.S. and had a state visit with President Obama. And they're talking about a new great power relationship. A lot of people have been talking, and concerned about how China, being the world's second largest economy, and the U.S., still the world's largest economy, are having some issues, some friction between things such as cyber spying, cyber attacks, developments in the South China Sea, also military cooperation, and of course, these things, cause friction, and of course, China and U.S. try to paper over these differences, but as we both know, or as we're aware, that China wants to reassert itself on the world stage, and it is making great strides in achieving these aims. And of course, there's also challenges. There's also challenges for China at this time. Basically, one, their economy is slowing. There's talk that China may not reach its 7% goal of economic growth this year. And there's been stock market drops over the past 4 months. Basically, the Chinese stock market hit a peak in June, and it's went up 150%, but now it's dropped at around 30 to 40% since then. Billions, if not trillions of yuan have evaporated. A lot of people have lost a lot of money. And of course, also, there was a big devaluation of the yuan, of the RMB, the Chinese currency, on August 11th, which shocked the world because this is a signal that shows that we're entering a new round of currency wars. Basically, countries devaluate their currencies to make their exports cheaper, but of course, this hurts countries that are also exporting, and basically, countries have to devaluate in order to stay competitive. There's also a lot of capital flight. A lot of rich Chinese are leaving the country and moving assets out because they don't trust the government. And at the same time, there's a lot of government infighting. There's a lot of political issues and factions that not everyone wants to follow or agree with the current president. The current president has been conducting an anti-corruption campaign to clean out the Communist Party. There's a lot of corruption, and that threatens the survival of the regime. And at the same time, also during the parade, the president of China did announce he was going to cut the military by 300,000 soldiers to streamline the world's largest army, the People's Liberation Army, to become a leaner, meaner fighting machine. And Finally, there's, of course, growing discontent. There's growing unease among the people in the country that the government is genuinely scared of, because with economic growth slowing, the people have been promised, have made a sort of implicit contract with the people, saying, okay, we will grow the economy, we will improve your living standards, as long as you do not challenge our power. Now economic growth is slowing, there's divisions, and of course the government is rightly concerned that if they don't deal with this, then it could turn into big social tensions. So, what lies ahead? What lies ahead for China from now until coming years? Well, first, let us turn to Revelation chapter 9, verse 13 to 19. Revelation 9, verses 13 and 19. There's going to be a series of verses here that I will read. It says, "Then the sixth angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the four horns of the golden altar, which is before God, saying to the sixth angel who had the trumpet, 'Release the four angels who are bound at the great river Euphrates.' So the four angels, who had been prepared for the hour and the day and the month and year, were released to kill a third of mankind. Now the number of the army of the horsemen was 200 million. I heard the number of them. And thus I saw the horses in the vision. Those who sat on them had breastplates of fiery red, hyacinth blue, and sulfur yellow. And the head of the horses were like the heads of lions. And out of their mouths came fire, smoke, and brimstone. By these three plagues, a third of mankind was killed, by the fire and the smoke and the brimstone which came out of their mouths. For their power is like in their mouth and in their tails, for their tails are like serpents having heads, and with them they do harm." So, what is this saying here? This is saying that in the future there's going to be a conglomeration of Asian powers from the East, and we will hear about the kings of the East in a moment, that they will join together, and these nations currently considered part of the future kings of the East coalition include Russia, China, Japan, India, Korea, Southeast Asian nations. They're going to be coming together in the end time, and their army is going to be immense. It's going to be the biggest army the world has ever seen, 200 million. Now, if we look at the population demographics in Asia, we know Asia is the most populous continent. China itself has over 1.4 billion people. India has 1.2 billion people, and we can conceive that in the future, this amount of manpower will be amassed. In China, currently, there's a lot of males. There's a surplus of males vis-a-vis females, and many of these males cannot find jobs or get married. So what do we do with these surplus males? Well, possibly in the future they might be called up for service. And let's look at Joel 2, verses 2 to 11. The book of Joel, chapter 2, and Joel is between Hosea and Amos. Verses 2 through 11. Let's find out what this army is going to do, more specifically. "A day of darkness and gloominess, a day of clouds and thick darkness, like the morning clouds spread over the mountains. A people come, great and strong, the like of whom has never been, nor will there ever be such after them, even for many successive generations. A fire devours before them, and behind them a flame burns. The land is like the Garden of Eden before them, and behind them a desolate wilderness. Surely nothing shall escape them. Their appearance is like the appearance of horses, and like swift steeds, so they run. With a noise like chariots over mountain tops they leap. like the noise of a flaming fire that devours the stubble, like a strong people set in battle array. Before them the people writhe in pain, all faces are drained of color. They run like mighty men, they climb the wall like men of war. Everyone marches in formation, and they do not break ranks. They do not push one another. Everyone marches in his own column. Though they lunge between the weapons, they are not cut down. They run to and fro in the city. They run over on the wall. They climb into the houses. They enter the houses or the windows like a thief. The earth quakes before them. The heavens tremble. The sun and moon grow dark, and the stars diminish their brightness. The Lord gives voice before his army, for his camp is very great. For strong is the one who executes his word. For the day of the Lord is great and very terrible. Who can endure it? So, basically, this army is going to do great destruction upon the earth. And going back to the first set of verses I read, the colors that were mentioned of this army, in blue and yellow and the red, basically these are the colors that currently the People's Liberation Army, the People's Liberation Army Navy, and the People's Liberation Air Force, that's their color. Those are their colors. So this is a description of where China is going to provide possibly the bulk of manpower for this 200 million man army. So this army, as you just read, is God's army, and God is going to use this army to execute judgment on the European beast power, and also to judge the world. And of course, how is this going to happen? How are we going to reach that stage where this army is going to form up? Well, there's going to be more economic crises. There's going to be more distress that is going to come onto the world in the coming years, as America and the United Kingdom lose their power and status. And basically, the times of the Gentiles is coming. And basically, since the peoples in the Anglo-Saxon countries have forgotten God or have disobeyed him, and God is going to bring upon curses and allow the Gentiles to rise up. At the same time, with economic collapse, there will be a reordering of the economic system, and we're aware that the European power shall rise up, and basically the King of the North is going to help divide up the lands and also give Asia their part in this new economic order, and there's going to be some prosperity. There's going to be some prosperity for all the people who join in the new beast system, but ultimately, it will not last, and there's going to be war. China will fulfill her destiny at the end of history, and there's going to be a great clash of civilizations, East versus West. There's been talk over the years and in history of how basically it's been the West led by the U.S. and the Anglo-Saxons have had primacy over the past 2 centuries. But before then, China has had over 5,000 years of history, and China was considered the center of the world. That's why a nickname for China is Zhongguo, and Zhongguo in Chinese means Middle Kingdom. All the kingdoms were surrounding it, and China was the middle. But in the end times, it's going to be a clash of East and West again. America will no longer exist. And basically, it's going to be the European power versus the kings of the South, the kings of the East, and also the kings of the South. But once the King of the North takes over the King of the South, there will be 2 halves, East and West. West is going to be represented by the German German-led beast power, and the West, or the East, is going to be represented by Russia, China, and all the other Asian nations. And another thing to point out is, if you're aware of current developments, economic and technological developments, we find that it's kind of ironic that America helped to build up both Germany and Japan. after World War II. And today we see that Germany and Europe, France, Germany primarily, is a tech center. They have a lot of technology. They're working on a lot of new weapons and new technologies through the like the Collider affair, Galileo. And Japan is a very high-tech, industrialized society. And Japan has the ability to produce nuclear weapons, and they also have the strongest navy in Asia. So we see that with the geopolitical map in the future, we find that Asia will be supported by Japan in technology. China will have the manpower, and Russia has, of course, nuclear weapons and the military leadership. And then all the other nations will combine and provide their own forces. Whereas in the West, we find that Germany and Europe will combine, and they'll have the technological prowess. They'll also join their militaries together. And basically, this European empire is going to take over pretty much half the world. It's going to take over or control half the world. So, where's this leading to? Well, what is going to be the end all? Let's turn to Revelation 16:12. Revelation chapter 16, verse 12. It says, "Then the sixth angel poured out his bowl on the great river Euphrates, and its water was dried up, so that the way of the kings from the east might be prepared. And I saw three unclean spirits like frogs coming out of the mouth of the dragon, out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophets." No, I read the extra verse. But basically, the verse 12 is saying that this army is going to march across Eurasia on its way to the Middle East. And we are aware that the European beast power, after it's occupied Jerusalem and taken over the king of the south, then the kings of the east will move west. And basically, the river Euphrates is a major boundary in the Middle East. It's currently in the nation of Iraq. But once this river is dried up, the bulk of the army will be able to enter the Middle East. And then they will gather in Armageddon for the final battle against Jesus Christ when he returns. And another verse to look at is Daniel 11. Daniel 11, verse 44. Daniel chapter 11, verse 44, it says, "But news from the east and the north shall trouble him. Therefore he shall go out with great fury to destroy and annihilate many." So what is this talking about? This is talking about the king of the north. The king of the north will have destroyed or conquered North America and England. Then it will have conquered the king of the south. But it hears disturbing news from the east and the north. Now, what is east and north of the European beast empire? Well, that is today the modern nations of Russia, and then the nations to the east, which include China, India, Southeast Asia, Japan. So basically, the beast power will be alarmed by the buildup, and they will, and the king of the north will try to strike first and preempt. But basically, the numbers are going to be too much. 200 million, that's 2/3 of the population of the United States. So obviously, despite having the technological advances and being able to conquer the strongest fortresses, which is America, the king of the north will be outmatched and outnumbered by the kings of the east. So, in conclusion, we find that China is going to play a very big role in the coming next few years. And we believe that before the time of the end, China will continue to increase its military power. Its economy will, despite challenges right now, will continue to grow. And China, along with the other Asian powers and Russia, are going to combine together to form a conglomeration of powers that will challenge the European beast power at the end of the age. And it is going to lead to the return of Jesus Christ and a better world. So let us keep up to date with the news, and let's also know what the Church of God is doing. Right now, CCOG is, we still have website. We have websites cogwriter.com and ccog.asia, which have news and articles about the Church of God that is in Mandarin Chinese and English and also Korean. And basically, we're having visitors from all around the world visiting these sites and learning more about where the true church is today. And there have been personal visits and also testimony given about what the Church of God is, and also there has been a discussion and sharing of this information. So there is work being done in China. Our hope is that there will be more laborers for the harvest, and that more will come to realize and hear the Word of God, because as it says in Matthew 24:14, this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached as a witness to the whole world, and then the end shall come. So obviously in the end, all nations, including those in Asia and China, will receive the gospel. To sum up, let us hold fast to the Word and continue to keep up to date with what's going on, because Jesus all commanded us to watch. And this is Chang from the Continuing Church of God.